All right, well, we've got a lot to do tonight, and we should just go ahead, I think, and get started and hope our folks join us. Welcome. Thank you for so much for joining and being a part of this charter review committee. I know this is a big undertaking. We're asking a lot of you over the next 6 months. And it's just wonderful to have you all here and committed to this process. I am Kim Ezel. I will be our facilitator throughout this, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But first, I just kind of want to get folks introducing themselves. So Kim Ezel, facilitator. My pronouns are she, her, and I worked for the city and have been facilitating for about a decade, and so I'm just really excited to be working on this project. And I'm going to ask the city staffers who are with us today to introduce themselves quickly, including their name, what they prefer to be called, pronouns, and what their role is going to be on the committee. And then I'll ask each of you to introduce yourselves, name you prefer to be called. I'll call on you, but then what name you prefer to be called, pronouns if you're comfortable sharing them, and why you wanted to join this committee and be in this process. So I introduce myself, and I'll hand it over to Shelby.
Hello, I'm Shelby Rahala. I'm the city attorney. I will go by Shelby, she, her pronouns. I've been with the city for 5 years as their in-house attorney, and then the previous 4 years as a contracted attorney. So have a little over 9 years working with the city and its staff. So happy to be here. I think is there anything? So my role will be legal advice to the city. So I will be a resource to this board. I'm not a voting member, but I'm absolutely here for questions and advice. My job is to represent the interests of the city, not any particular person, department, or elected officials. So I will be speaking on behalf of the city as a whole. So I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Thanks, Shelby. And Jesse.
Hi, my name is Jesse Raimundo. I'm the Deputy City Recorder with the City of Tigard. I've been with the city for about 1.5 years now, and I go by he, him pronouns. And I'll be providing administrative support for the committee, and that includes taking minutes and uploading videos of these meetings to the website. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Jesse. And then Carol, I'll go to you because you are at an interesting nexus as both a city staff member, but also a voting member of this board.
Yeah, my name is Carol Krager. I use she, her pronouns. I've been at the city since 2006 and as a recorder since 2014. I look at the charter frequently because we respond, we do what it says. And so, there's some things I'd like to see changes in, and I'm really interested in what the community wants to do with our charter. I think another thing I would bring is like how practical are some suggestions, or, what does that mean for people administering it? And I'm really excited that so many people wanted to join us. I think that's great.
Thanks, Carol. And so I'm just going to go through the list that I've got now. So Derek Lawson.
Hi, I'm Derek Lawson. Just interested in joining the charter just to be a part of the process and as a member of the community. And my family's here. We're raising our children here, and just want to add my voice to the chorus and see how we can best come up with a good product as a group together. So that's my interest primarily.
Thanks for being here. And Karen Emerson.
Hi, Karen Emerson. I go by Karen. She, her, hers. Yeah, so it sounds open-ended. Moved to Tigard in 2005, been around that long. And along the way did help the city with the past bond attempt and safety levy, and have served as a school board member. And I was someone who shared public comment during the
The term limits conversation?
yeah, we'll call it that. And so piqued my interest as to what other things might be confusing or open-ended and that could be better defined. So just looking forward to the process. Thanks.
Thanks. And Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Washburn. Lindsay is just fine, and I use she, her pronouns. I grew up in Oregon, but only moved to Tigard in 2019. And like Derek said, raising a family here, I have a personal and professional interest in local government. I just finished up a 2-year term with Washington County Public Safety Council and saw this opportunity come up and very interested in reviewing a document that hasn't been comprehensively reviewed since the 60s. I do a lot of work with the LGBTQ community. And so incorporating inclusive language and just, looking at a document that needs to represent a changing and growing community, I think this is a really neat opportunity. So I am excited to kind of bring that lens and look at this all together with you all. So thank you.
Excited to have you. And former Representative Doherty.
Hi, my name is Margaret Doherty, and I go by Margaret, she, her pronouns. And I was kind of interested in this just because I've got a policy background, been in the legislature for 11 years. You deal with policy all the time. I was also on the Planning Commission, Tigard Planning Commission for 8 years. And so we dealt with a lot of the issues that were facing Tigard at the time. So I just thought that some of the skills that I had would be helpful for the committee.
Glad to have you. And Nathan Jackson.
Hi, yeah, I'm Nathan Jackson, he, him. I go by Nate or Nathan, whichever you remember more easily. As far as my history with the city, I've been on the Planning Commission also. I'm just starting my 7th year, I think it is. As far as this particular project, I also first got interested in the earlier conversations around the term limits and when the city was soliciting feedback about that. That was kind of the first time I thought I should probably learn a little more about this charter thing and what it actually says. And then this opportunity came along and I jumped at it.
Glad to have you. And then former Mayor Snyder, I think you've probably picked up on it, but we're introducing ourselves, the name you prefer to go by, pronouns if you feel comfortable, and your interest in the committee.
Well, thank you. And Kim, just so you know, I had a lot of fighting with my technology because apparently, well, I knew I'd been disconnected from the city accounts. What I didn't realize was how disruptive that was going to be trying to get into the meeting. I'm now on a tertiary device for my use, which is an iPad. So I know you said don't do that. I don't really, in this short notice, I couldn't come up with a different plan. So Jason Snyder, former mayor of Tigard and prior city councilor, budget committee member. I think I know many of you. I use he, him pronouns, and calling me Jason is great. And I have a lot of interest in making sure, in part, that nobody else is as impacted as I was in the future from sort of language that was poorly thought through when it was changed and didn't sync up with old language that was in the charter. And there's just lots of things in the charter that are goofy that I think myself and former Mayor Cook as well, and many members of the council kind of just scratching our heads at this point on some of it. So looking forward to a fairly comprehensive review. And I frankly think there's some really big questions that need to be asked about even our form of government. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Did I cover what you were asking for, Kim?
You did it great. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. And former Mayor Cook.
Good evening, everyone. John Cook, or for the staff, Mayor Cook. I know you're still required to do that. So you can call me John or Mayor. Either one works. As Jason knows, it just stays with you forever. So that's a good thing. I was born in Tigard before it was a city. So I'm the old timer here. So I was born in 60 and Tigard was incorporated in 61. My dad was involved in incorporating the city. So a lot of history with the city. And like Jason said, a lot of the amendments over the years, some well thought out, some not well thought out. And some of them, I understand why they're there. And some of them, I think you guys need to know why they're there. And I think that's sort of why we're here to start with. So why some of those were put there in the first place. Other than that, I think we'll get into it as we go along, but lived in Tigard for 58 years until 4 years ago when I decided to move outside the boundaries. So all the way down the road to King City. So
Thank you for joining us. And Holly Fenton.
Hello, my name is Holly Fenton. I go by Holly, she, her pronouns. I work for the Tigard Municipal Court. I've been here for about 5 years. I am interested in getting more involved and helping to shape the future of Tigard, and this looked like a great opportunity with some of my court background. I love reading policies, procedures, laws, statutes, so I thought this would be something that would be very interested, and the more I read, the more exciting I am, so I'm really glad to be here. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. And Tony Simpson.
Hey, Tony Simpson. I have been in Oregon since 2000. I started out in Lake Oswego and then moved to Tigard. I've been here somewhere between, I don't know, 15 and 20 years. I lost track, but and I work in the tech industry, cybersecurity, and I pretty much have been looking at policy and agreements and documents since I was old enough to read. That's just the way my brain works. So it's very interesting to me. I have a background in journalism and editing newspapers, and I've worked with policy and legislators and law enforcement and a bunch of different aspects because that's just where wherever my curiosity takes me, that's where I go. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of be involved in this because it gives me a chance to do what I'm naturally inclined to do. So I appreciate it.
We're glad you're here. And Zena Pinto, you can close us out.
Hi, I'm Zena Pinto. I go by Zena. She or her pronouns. So I moved to Tigard actually less than a year ago, like February last year. Actually an immigrant and just got my citizenship a couple of months ago. So I'm so glad now I get an opportunity to do something for the community. I lived in different states, but always I wanted to move to Oregon because of the nature, and I feel I'm in the right place now. So I was a software developer earlier before having my kids. So since last 4.5 years, I'm stay-at-home mom. About writing, I have written the technical documents when I was working, and I also written some general blogs. So I have a great passion for reading. So with all my interest, I think I can contribute something to the Charter Review Committee. And thanks for the opportunity.
Very glad that you're here. So thank you everybody for introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit about why you wanted to join this committee. We're going to go into breakout rooms very briefly for 2 reasons. One, to test the tech to make sure that we can do the breakout rooms pretty seamlessly in the future because we will be using them a lot as part of the plan. And then also just to give folks a chance, it's really difficult in this virtual environment, as you all know, to kind of get to know each other on that kind of more personal level, the things that you do when you talk before and after a meeting. So just an opportunity to get to know a couple people a little bit better. So I want to send everybody to the rooms and then just an icebreaker question, just to talk about something that you do that kind of fills up your cup, something you do in your free time that makes your life a little happier, joyful.
Okay. Are there questions? When I've done the breakout rooms before, and I do have an iPad,
Okay.
we had to push buttons to get to the breakout rooms. Is that your system or was that theirs?
It should be everybody's system. I believe if you are on an iPad or mobile device, you'll have to push buttons. I think it takes you automatically if you're not on that system, which makes it a little tricky. And then also Shelby and Jesse, because you are both organizers of this meeting, you will not get sent to rooms. But Shelby, why don't you go to room 1? Jesse, you go to room 2, and I'll pop into room 3.
And Kim, usually what it is the little note that comes up says you are to go to room whatever. And so
okay.
I don't know what room I'm supposed to be in.
You are assigned to room 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just
It
in
should
case
say
it doesn't work.
It should say join room 2 is what when we did test this last week on some different devices, but we'll see what happens tonight.
Well, I have a desktop, but there's no sound, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll work-
understandable.
Next meeting, I'll work on that.
No worries. If it works tonight, then we should be good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open the rooms. And so go and meet each other a little bit more. Lindsay, did you have an issue?
I did it first and then I just hit rejoin and it was fine.
Okay. Is this room 2?
No, this is not. This is the main room.
It said I couldn't join.
Okay. Let me try to send you there, maybe.
Yeah. That might. I'll try to get my sound fixed on my desktop. So for next time.
It's why we kind of planned this meeting to have a little more time for these issues. Shelby and Jesse, you guys can go to rooms 2 and 3 though.
I don't know how to get to a room.
Okay.
Jesse, you're on mute.
And then Carol, are you having an issue?
Get into a room either.
You could
I'm in room 1. Is that where I'm supposed to be?
this is currently the main room. It is not a room.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not sure how to go. Let's see.
So, Jesse, were you able to go to a room?
No, I wasn't. Trying to see if there's a setting for me to enter a room.
Because I said the little thing said, join room 2, and I put join, and then they said you can't join.
I'm gonna send you to room 3 instead and see
See if that works.
see if that one likes you more. Yeah.
Okay. I'll hit the join.
Okay. Yep. Let's see, Carol. I'm gonna switch you to room 2, and we'll see if that works.
Okay.
And then I can't assign you guys, Shelby and Jesse. Can you? Oh, you probably can't see it. Jesse, can you see the rooms icon at the top of your screen?
I cannot.
Okay, I think so something popped up on my computer,
Okay.
but it's just joining you at a meeting. So
Sometimes it like pops up in the background.
okay.
Zoom is so much better.
So Carol, are you on the ThinkSmart?
I am. Are you?
Okay. No, but we should have tested that last week. I don't know that it works.
Oh, at all for rooms?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Well, at least it seems like everybody who really doesn't know each other got into the rooms.
True.
I'm gonna go check in on.
Carol, my Chromebook is on my desk in my office. Do you want to try that?
Well, I could try that, or I could try my computer here, but and then use the ThinkSmart for my audio.
Yeah, I would.
See.
Yeah, I mean, this is our only time in breakout rooms, right, Cam?
Yeah, we're not doing them again, and we'll do some more tech.
Yeah, so I would say stay here for tonight, but yeah, in the future, I don't think the ThinkSmart works. So we should we should troubleshoot it separately.
Okay.
because I don't think that it's gonna work. I tried on my city cell phone and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, and so in future, I won't make you and Jesse organizers because then I can send you to rooms. But
Right.
when you're
Okay.
organizers, you have to do it yourselves. I can't.
Okay.
I'm getting like error messages telling me like they're an organizer. You can't move them.
Okay. Well, but I guess it works out well because nobody knows that we're not in a room. They just think we're in a different room.
True.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I can go move into a room. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
pop into
go
one.
pop,
All right, see you
yeah,
later.
go pop in and see how things are going, and we'll hang out here with ourselves.
In the main
Sorry.
room.
Yeah, because Carol, when we tested it last week, my city cell phone didn't work. So that's why I sent the email last week saying, hey, if you want to test it, I'm happy to join it. Because I suspected it wouldn't work. So yeah, the Chromebook is there if you're wanting, or yeah, your computer would work too.
Oh, that's weird because on my phone, it says that I'm in room 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm getting chat messages.
I am too. Yeah.
Jesse, the mayor called and said their room could hear me, but I don't see them. Oh, Carol, okay. Yes, you are still on with your mic. Weird, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, they can hear me too.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, they can hear you too, Shelby.
Okay, we have people coming back together.
And we're back.
We are. Let's see, we got some feedback coming through, but I think it got muted. I do apologize that that did not go nearly as smoothly as it did in our tests, but I'm glad that we've done a couple different issues that we will be troubleshooting before our next meeting when we will be using the breakout rooms much more substantively. It is the best way that we've found to really have a conversation where everybody's voices get heard. So it's important to us that we're able to do breakout rooms, and in the future it will be a smoother experience. But thank you for your patience this evening as we work through some of this.
Yeah. Well, one advantage is the committee is not real large. You know, if you had, lots and lots of people, then that might be, that definitely would have to take place. But at least this is a little smaller group. So
It is.
helps a little bit.
And I'm going to go ahead and move into the next piece of our agenda, which was the committee overview. So I've got this PowerPoint deck that I'm going to be going through, but feel free to interrupt me with questions. I love that. I just ask that when you do so, you use the raise hand feature rather than interrupt, just so I can finish a thought, and then I will call on people as their hands raised. And we'll use the raise hand feature extensively during our time together. So if you don't know where that is, there should be a button somewhere on your screen, depending on which version of Teams you have, that says reactions. And in that, you'll see a variety of reactions, including hearts and clapping, but there's also a raised hand. Yep, and I see you found it, Margaret. Does anyone not see the raise hand button?
Yeah, I lowered my hand, didn't I?
Yep, Zena found it. All right, great. So, and everybody can see the PowerPoint screen now? Cool. So just to review, we have folks coming into this committee from a lot of different sources so that we can have a really comprehensive group to do a comprehensive review. That includes several community representatives. We have 3 elected representatives, our city recorder, Carol, and then 3 non-voting alternates. We also have a youth representative. Unfortunately, the high schooler who was supposed to join us resigned her position this morning. She had other commitments. And we are actively trying to find someone else before our second meeting or some other alternative. The only real distinction between any of the members in this group is between the alternates versus kind of the rest of the group. But we want to emphasize that the alternates are encouraged to be super active in all of our conversations and discussions. Your voice is just as valuable as any other committee member. But when we go to vote on different concepts or language, you will not have a vote in that. Any questions about kind of how people came together or like what any distinctions that are being made? Yes, Jason.
I think it'd be good to just be clear too that the non-voting alternates, some of whom may become voting members if other members of the committee drop off. That's the part of the intent in having them. So that what your statement made is true now, but could change over time as well.
Yes, there is always the possibility that our non-voting alternates are promoted into the committee member positions, which I'm really glad that you brought that up. Does make it just as important that you show up to these meetings. They're going to be building on each other as we go through the charter. So having that background is going to be really helpful, and that's why we have alternates, so that we have folks who are steeped in the same knowledge for when we may need to call on you. So just a little bit, I had the opportunity to talk with every one of you over the last month, and it was wonderful. And there's a few things that stuck out to me. 10 of the 13 members here this evening were unfamiliar with a lot of the Tigard Charter before the committee or before the issues of this summer. So that was really exciting. We're all kind of learning about it together, although I think some of our elected officials are a little more steeped in it. We have a whole range of folks' residency in Tigard, which I find really interesting. We have folks who have lived in Tigard for under a year, and then folks who have spent their entire lives in Tigard, and multi-generational families in Tigard. So we have a large range of perspectives that are coming into the group. And then I think it's obvious by everybody being in this room, but we have a really big commitment to public service. 11 of the 13 committee members here have served local government through boards, committees, elected office, or as full-time public servants, and the other 2 who haven't can't say that anymore. So I just want to applaud everybody for coming together and being dedicated to this service. So based on our conversations and the charge out of the City Council of Tigard, we put together this mission statement that I'd like to hear your thoughts on, which is for what this group is going to be kind of coalescing and accomplishing over the next 6 months. And our mission statement was advance the governance of the City of Tigard through a comprehensive review of the city charter, provide recommendations for an understandable, flexible, and durable cornerstone for the future of the city. And a lot of that language you might recognize because it would have come directly from our conversations. I'd like to know if anyone has any thoughts. Yes, Tony.
I just want to say, yeah, I like that mission statement. I think it is um, one of the most important pieces that I like in that language is about it being understandable, because there's a lot of legalese in the world and a lot of policies and a lot of laws that a good number of people just simply don't understand that language, and it's very hard for them to understand how it applies to them and how they have to live in that reality. You know, how they're supposed to function in a under a system that they don't even understand what the words mean. So I appreciate that
Yeah, thank
nuance
you,
to language.
Thank you. Yes, Karen.
Just wondering if this is, I don't know, just from the reading that we did from the national document.
Yeah.
I didn't know if this mission statement was the getting started statement that was recommended, or if you think that we will still be doing something separate. And I just asked since it suggested that the statement described the kind of government we want, not necessarily the document that we want. And maybe that isn't different.
It's a little different. I think as Jason alluded to, it's a little hard. There were some pieces of that document, most of it that I really liked, but some of the things with describing the government that you're looking for, we're going to have a lot of broad conversations about what the governance of Tigard should or could be. So it seemed a little bit to me like it was putting the cart before the horse, describing the governance before we'd really gotten started. So I thought that the mission statement of describing the document and what the committee's work is going to be maybe a better starting place. But thank you for reading that. I know it was 40+ pages. I wasn't sure how much folks would get through. Yeah, and think about this. And we can send out the slides after this meeting as well if you have other thoughts. I know it's things sprung on you at the moment. So a couple values and actions based out of the mission statement are that we are come here together to listen and learn from one another. We're going to have some interesting conversations. I'm sure there will be tension. I know there's going to be conflict. But just being respectful of one another, using the raise hand feature rather than interrupting one another. And then we're going to use those breakout rooms in order to have smaller group conversation around some of the issues that we'll be discussing. And back to that idea of there's going to be conflict, just assume that everybody has the best interests of Tigard in mind. I've talked to every one of you. I know from our conversations that everyone has the best interests of Tigard in mind. And I would just encourage everyone to keep that front of mind as we have some difficult conversations and ask clarifying questions of one another as we're going along. And finally, it's important that the decisions that come out of this committee are based on factual information and careful consideration. So this city is going to present, especially Shelby and Jesse and some other guest speakers that will have a lot of information that we found in kind of research and what's going on in other cities and states and peer cities and communities. And we'll do everything in our power that everything that you hear from us will be factual. And we just ask that everybody align themselves with those goals. Is there anything, any questions, any values that you wish to include or ask of your fellow committee members? Okay, Derek, yes.
Just a quick question. I'd like to get clarification. I think it's great we have like the city's attorney, for example, present, because as we're navigating this proceeding and moving forward, are we beholden to any of the existing language of the document? Like, are we, the purpose of what we're doing here today, like as we establish, the framework of what the document's going to do moving forward, is it a clean sweep? Are we, are there certain things that we're subject to that we're limited by?
No, great question. So that's really up to this group to decide. Legally, we're not required to keep any of it. There are certain things that we will have to keep in concept, but no, it's a clean slate if that's what the group is interested in.
One clarifying or just secondary point, like there was one that was a citizens initiative that's related to transportation, like the Max line coming down, for example, things like that. So that, for example, as well, during this process, we could just say, hey, that's something we don't want to move forward with, or we want to keep, or things like that.
Yep, correct. We will be discussing that quite a bit.
Awesome. Thank you much.
Something we'll talk about in our next meeting that we've started preparing for is we want to present basically a shell document of the charter, and then kind of fill in the pieces as we're going along, because Jason had said earlier, the charter is a little bit of a mess. It's not consistent in the different sections, but we'll be talking about that more in detail too. And John, please.
Shelby, maybe you can go over this. If we come up with a new document like Derek was talking about, that gets voted on one item versus if you one off everything, you have to vote on those separately.
Yeah, so that's one of the issues that Portland went through with their charter, is whether it's a single subject vote. So different cities have done it differently. So Sherwood's perspective, when they did it, they did not a comprehensive review, but they put each section on the ballot separately. Whereas Portland rewrote it and they were challenged on it, but they won at court. And they did a single revision that was voted on as just one item.
And Jason, please.
That's interesting, Shelby. I think if we did put each individual thing or each section on, we could end up with something that's even worse than what we have now. I think that that concept generally is very problematic. And if you think about the way this was enacted to begin with, it's enacted as we're becoming a city and this is our charter. And so I think we should be thinking about it that way, but I don't want to start pushing how we do stuff, but I just think that would be very problematic to try to do it individual issue by issue.
Agreed, right. And like I said, Sherwood's was not a comprehensive review. So I think there were a handful of items that they picked, but absolutely the less consistent and cohesive it is, the more it leads to the Frankenstein kind of assembly that we have now.
Yeah. And Margaret, please.
Yes, going through where they had the side-by-side comparisons of Tigard and Beaverton and what the League of Oregon Cities has presented. I guess my assumption is lots of cities use the League of Oregon City guidelines. That's like my question. Okay.
They do.
Okay. And then second of all, just because I didn't want to, it came out on my computer as 57 pages, and I didn't want to run it off. Because it was separate pages, not a side-by-side document. If you guys could provide it for me, I can come pick it up at the city. If you guys can run off the side-by-side, because on my computer, it's just Tigard's one section. I'd have to paste it all and glue it all together. So if you guys could do that.
You're asking for it to be printed, right, Margaret?
Yes, printed. The old-fashioned way. 'Cause on something like that, the other ones I can go through, I like to write down notes and that kind of thing. So. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Just a couple kind of things that we ask of you. Please attend these meetings. Let me know if you'll be absent. I will be your main point of contact throughout this process. You'll be getting agendas and meeting minutes from me, and the meeting invites and links. So just let me know if you aren't able to attend. Please come prepared by reviewing the agenda and other meeting materials. And Jason, please.
I was just going to ask, can you, so in my troubleshooting at the beginning, I tried to call your cell phone. Your email cell phone number is missing a digit, I think, on your email signature line. So I was just going to ask for you to provide your email to all, or your cell phone number to all of us.
I will do that. Thank you. I'm sorry that I typed it in poorly.
Oh, not to worry. I would do that just because I didn't want people to call me.
And we touched on this a little bit already, but there's going to be conflict. So I just ask that everyone engage in respectful and robust dialogue about the governance of Tigard. And then please speak with your neighbors, your friends, people you know, colleagues about what we're talking about in these committee meetings and bring their perspectives back to this group. You are a key piece of the public engagement portion of this work that we're doing. And we would really appreciate, I think everyone would appreciate the different folks that people know in the community and bringing all of those perspectives together. So my commitment, what I will do is it is very important to me to begin and end meetings promptly. I know folks have other commitments outside of this work, and so we will never impromptu keep a meeting running late. If there ever is a sense that we need to have longer meetings or more meetings, that will be decided well in advance so that people can make arrangements that they need to make. I will, in partnership with the folks in the city, develop and send meeting agendas and materials well before a meeting to ensure everyone has an opportunity to review. I know that's something several of you asked for in our conversations, and so I will commit to doing that. In partnership with all of you, create a forum where everyone's voices are heard throughout this process and no one is dominating that conversation or feels like they are being left out of the conversation. And then continue to work with city staff to provide guidance, research, other information, answer any questions that you have to aid you in making the best decisions that this group is capable of making. Is there anything else that you would ask of me to provide during this process? Something comes up, like my phone number or anything else, you'll have my phone number soon, so you'll be able to address that. All right, so this is the meat. So what is it that we're actually going to start doing next meeting? And this is a lot, so we're going to go through it very carefully, but it starts in that top left corner. So in each meeting, we're going to have some topic or focus area of the charter. And we'll do that topic introduction, provide any education, we'll give you materials in advance, have an opportunity for those group to conduct any questions and answers that you have. So we'll do that in like the big group section. And then we'll go into breakout sessions where you will have an opportunity to work closely with a few other members and work through what some of those key questions are around that topic. And we'll brainstorm some of those and provide them for you, but you aren't beholden to them by any means. If there's other questions that you want to discuss, other nuances or tracks that you want to go down. We'll come back into a big committee discussion, talk about what happened in the breakout rooms and try to come to some sort of consensus. The goal originally, when we start talking about a topic, is to come to consensus around the concept. So because this is a comprehensive review, we will be looking at what the current charter says, but we won't necessarily be text editing it right away, much as coming to a conclusion about what the concept is. So for example, one thing that I'm sure we'll talk about is the roles and responsibilities of the mayor of the city. So we'll come together with a concept of what that is. And we are being asked to come to consensus, which the City of Tigard has defined as 75%. So we are all members in attendance. That is, I think, 11 out of our 13 members agreeing on that concept. And then it can go a couple different ways from there. Most often, especially when we start talking about the really big substantive issues, that concept is going to require charter language as the next step. And that is where we will turn things over to our city attorney to draft something based on that concept, which will then come back to the committee for renewed discussion. If there's any concerns, Shelby is human, she's attending these meetings, but things might be misunderstood or just not captured in the way that this committee intended, in which case there is a loop process to really make sure that the language captures what the group is looking for. And then once that has been finalized, it will go to the committee recommendation. That'll be another approval. There's also going to be several recommendations that might come out of this committee that don't necessarily require like specific language. For example, I know there was many of you talked about the desire for gender neutral language in the charter. And right now there is one instance of a he, him that I've found in my reading of the charter that we would want to remove, but we'd also want to direct the city attorney, we'd want to direct Shelby to use gender neutral language in any of her future drafting. And so that would be a recommendation that wouldn't necessarily require specific language to come out, but would be a direction for the entirety of the charter. The third would be if the concept is that there's no change to the charter. We want to take something fully from the old charter and move it directly into the new, no change. And so that would just become the committee recommendation. There's always the possibility that we cannot find consensus on some topic or, and in that case, then the original charter language would remain intact. So we want to avoid that as much as possible, but in that case, then there would be no recommendation. That is a lot. I know you are all seeing this for the first time, so please take a minute, think about it. Please ask any clarified questions, make any recommendations. We're here to discuss. Yes, Lindsay.
So I guess this is for, concepts that already exist in the charter. If we go through it and we feel like there's just something like blatantly missing, would that be kind of at the final stage after we've reviewed the charter to say, we feel like this concept is missing and we want to add this as a concept? Because this kind of framework is just addressing what already exists.
Yeah, and we do have some topics that are things that they're very broad. So things like the elections process. So there may be things in elections process that don't currently exist in the charter, but would be something that would fall under that category. And we would encourage you to bring that up. I will present I think either the next slide or 2 slides from here is the list of what the topics or what the topic concepts are. And look at it, review it, think about it. If there's something that is blatantly missing that you want us to be discussing, bring it forward. This is your committee. We want to capture all of the things that you want to talk about during this process. And then we can include it and make sure everybody we can do research and provide materials and all of that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can't think of anything, but I was just wondering.
Thanks. Yeah, but this is the beginning. There's going to be things that come up, I know. Any other thoughts, questions? This will be sent out to you. There will be opportunity for you to also give written feedback. I'm sure there will be more. Think about it. Interrupt me later on to go back to it. So in framework part 2, this is where we talk about what those concepts and topics are, and we've kind of broken them into 3 sections that we're going to work through from left to right over the next 6 months. And the first one, these are topics that are substantive, but very straightforward. Things that often talk about like the modernization of language in response to technology and changing social norms. These are ones that, based on the conversations I had with all of you, I anticipate pretty general consensus, although I could be wrong. I have been in the past. And we will talk about things like the charter structure. So what that shell looks like and the different elements that are there that we'll be filling in, as well as some concepts around things like gender neutrality and reaction to technology. And that will be the focus of our next meeting. So any questions about kind of that first opening step? So going into kind of unit 2, these are complex issues, a lot of pure policy decisions that require a lot of explanation, some background information. Based on conversations with you all, I anticipate some robust discussion and some slight differences of opinion. May not be super conflict heavy, but I do anticipate there might be some conflict. And these are areas of the charter that include things like public improvements, the process of how ordinances are enacted, the debt limit. Derek had talked about this already a little bit, but that urban right to renewal section, which includes the Willamette River as a second drinking water source, high capacity transit, and just general urban renewal. And then finally, the last section is where we'll be spending a lot of our time. I would probably say the most of our time. And these are the areas that have the major consequential impacts on Tigard. They're going to require extensive background and research. I anticipate we'll have many in-depth conversations. And this is where I would anticipate the most conflict is going to come out, which is why it's after these other two sections so we can get to know each other a little bit better and get the group really working together. And this is going to include the governance roles for elected officials, which, as the city is currently structured, includes a mayor, city council, and a city council president. The governance roles of city officers. I think the city officers named in the charter right now are the city recorder, the city manager, and the finance officer, and the municipal judge. But are those the appropriate officials to be in the charter? Are there other officials that should be? And then the elections process will be the final topic there. This encompasses everything that is currently in the charter, as well as very broad questions about areas of the charter that we want to be asking those big questions about. And to Lindsay's point, if there's anything that is missing here that you would like to see as you look at other cities' charters, as you review the National Civics League document, please feel free to reach out to add them to our list. So this is what our next 6 months together would look like with these charter topics. This is our introductions, our time together, be going into charter structure and concepts next meeting, and then spending some time in those category 2 items before moving at the end of March into our big governance discussions. We have 2 meetings that are unscheduled. I like to provide that so that we have some flexibility on the schedule, and then a final meeting in June to put finishing touches, ensure kind of stability and consistency around the charter, as well as any last additions. And Jason, please.
Just want to note that March 27th is I think the middle of spring break for Oregon, and I'm anticipating that may be a conflict. Looks like one of the meaty topic times. So I guess I just want to point that out. I'm not sure I'll be available for that meeting. I'm going to be in Hawaii that week. I guess I could potentially participate, but I think others, that may be a barrier too.
Thank you for bringing that up. So we may look at rescheduling that meeting for folks. And then if there are, I did not do a check on these dates for if any of them fall on national holidays or anything, so I'll do that check as well. And Margaret, please.
Okay. The one question I had, and this might be a premature question, but when all is said and done, we've agreed with something. Does this need to be authorized by the general public through an election?
Yes. Jesse's going to go through that in some detail, but anything that is a change to charter does have to go to the voters.
That's what I figured. Thank you.
And then finally, we are going to be doing a quite significant public engagement push through this process. So for one, if you hadn't seen, these meetings are being recorded. They're going to be publicly available, shared on the city website, along with meeting minutes for anybody who is curious to see what we're discussing. We also have an invitation to submit public comment, written public comment via the city website, and we'll be sharing anything that comes in with all of you. Like we talked about earlier, encourage you to talk to your neighbors, friends, colleagues, guys standing behind you at the coffee shop about the work that's going on with the city charter. And then finally, we'll be doing a series of charter chats kind of towards the end of our time together with this committee. These are going to be open houses designed to gain input on the charter. They'll begin this summer. And always looking for other ideas that you have for ways to get the word out about the work that we're doing. Okay, so that wraps up my committee overview. I will send this presentation out following this meeting. There was a lot in there. I believe we'll probably still have time in our next meeting to talk about anything that is unclear. Also, you'll have my new phone number, you'll have my phone number and my email address. And if anything comes up, you have a question, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk about this with you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Shelby. She's going to talk a little bit about the public records law and how it impacts our work here.
Yeah, thank you. So as an advisory group to the City Council, you are all considered public officials for purposes of Oregon Public Records and Public Meetings Law. So what that means from a record standpoint is if you anticipate having a lot of email communication or a lot of other communication, I would suggest an allocated email address that you would use to send and receive those messages. Anytime you send and receive emails as a public official, you are subject to public records requests. So the city will maintain all of its own records. So all of the agendas and stuff will all be maintained in our city system. But if you anticipate having a lot of communications that are going to be substantive in nature about the topics on this committee, you might just want to come up with a shelbycharter@gmail.com kind of email address. So just to keep it separate. It's not a requirement, just depending on your level of comfort and depending on how much engagement you're going to have with this committee. From a public meeting standpoint, we are subject to public meetings requirements as well, which means that we can't talk about things that we're going to vote on outside of this committee with more than a quorum of the committee. And so if it's not as applicable to a group like this where we're talking about consensus in education as it is with like a city council talking about votes. But in order to comply with the law, if there's going to be a discussion coming up for a vote, you're not supposed to be discussing your vote outside of the setting of this meeting. So no vote tallying, vote getting behind the scenes. It's supposed to all be in public. Margaret.
Is this something like, for example, if I have a question, I just email it to Kim and not reply all kind of situation? I know commissions I've been on, they've said, you reply to me, no reply all, because that talks about a quorum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so if it's a substantive question, generally sending it to just one person is always best. And then if it's educational, we can send that out to the whole committee and make sure that everybody has received the same information. But if it's something that is going to suggest the way that you're going to vote on something, we absolutely don't want that sent reply all.
So a reply all is kind of a rule of thumb. Don't do that.
It's a best practice. Absolutely. Yes.
And
yes.
I will do my best to make that easy for you by BCCing folks on most of the emails that you get from me, just so there is no possibility for a reply all.
So public meetings, another aspect of public meetings is all of our discussions are public. And so as Kim mentioned, they are posted online. We have disabled the chat feature of the meeting, whether we continue with this or Zoom. We will not have a chat feature just in order to preserve the integrity of the public record. This meeting will be posted online. So again, just be mindful of everything that you say is public information here. So those are kind of the quick and dirty highlights of it. Hopefully with such a short committee and the fact that it's really structured to be focused as the committee as a whole, we're not going to have subcommittees, we're not going to have outside work assignments. So it should be pretty contained in these confines. But absolutely, if you have any questions that come up along the way, I'm happy to help answer any of those.
Any other questions for Shelby? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse, and he's going to do a little city charter 101.
Hello. Again, my name is Jesse Raimundo, and tonight I'll be providing a basic overview of the charter, its key components, the difference between charter and municipal code, qualities of a good charter, as well as a timeline for after the charter review is complete. To begin with, charter is the constitution for the city, and it serves as the basic set of rules and duties for our city. It spells out what a city can and cannot do, as well as the responsibilities and authority of a mayor, city council, and how a city should be managed and governed. So the main components of the charter are as follows, and I'll briefly explain each of these as I list them. And these components are almost exactly what we have on our current charter. First, we have the preamble, and the preamble clearly communicates the intentions of the framers and the purpose of the document. Then we have the name and the boundaries, and that includes the basic information, including the name of the city and the description of the city boundaries. Then we have the powers of the city. This section includes a statement that the local government should claim all powers it may legally exercise through its charter. Elected officials, that contains information such as the composition of council, term limits, and qualifications to run for council. Next, we have the city officers, and that lists the powers and duties of the city manager, municipal judge, city recorder, and the finance officer. Next, we have the election section. While state election laws typically apply to municipalities, there are some sections such as commencement of term of office and tie votes that are included. We then have the ordinance section, and this contains the process for adopting ordinances. Then we have the public improvements section, which addresses topics such as condemnation, improvements, special assessments, and bids. Then we have our urban renewal section, and that contains information about the urban renewal agency. And then we have some miscellaneous provisions that mention the debt limit, existing ordinances, and time of effect. And then lastly, the authentication certificate of the city recorder. Next, we want to make looks like we have a question.
Yes, Jason, please.
Yes.
So, City Attorney Rahala, sorry, Shelby, I'm going to have trouble adjusting here. I think, and can you go back one slide? Because in the section that Jesse was talking about with the powers of the city, I think an important concept maybe to even introduce now would be having Shelby review what Oregon being a home rule state means and why the charter says that we're going to take every power we can have. It's a very fundamental concept and something that if you're not sort of an elected official in a city government, you may not, or a city attorney, you may not quite grasp at the outset, and it's pretty fundamental. I don't know how you feel about that, Shelby, either now or later. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I had tagged it for later, but it does fit here now that we're talking about it. So Jesse, if I can squeeze in and introduce that. So Oregon is a home rule state, which makes the charter really, really important. So as a home rule state, basically the Oregon Constitution gives cities all the powers that the state has not expressly reserved for itself. And so in a non-home rule state, generally the way it works is that the state expressly grants authorities to cities, whereas in Oregon as a home rule state, Oregon cities have all of the powers that the state hasn't expressly reserved for itself. So it's the difference between an express grant and a reservation of everything unless the state takes it away. And so there are several things that the state has taken away. Criminal law is one of them. Land use planning is another. There are many things that the state has preempted cities from doing. But in general, Oregon cities have a lot more authority than cities in general around the country. So we have the ability to form our own governance, to establish our structure of governance. Basically, it's everything that the state hasn't already said that we cannot do. So it is really important, and it is the foundation of what our charter is going to be, is making sure that we do reserve as many powers as we can and need to, because we have that ability to under Oregon law.
Jason, was there anything else you wanted to add or anything that? Great. Jesse, we're seeing the key components of the charter slide.
Yes, yes. So if we can move on here, if there are any other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And here, we just want to make an important distinction between the charter and the municipal code, because the relationship between the two does have its contrasts. And to do this, a helpful analogy to keep in mind would be to compare the difference between the Oregon Constitution and Oregon statutes. The Oregon Constitution contains fundamental laws outlining principles by which Oregon is governed, while the Oregon statutes are the codified laws of the state of Oregon. And this is like the charter and the Tigard Municipal Code in that the charter defines the organization, its powers, functions, and essential procedures of the city, and it's amended by the voters. But the Tigard Municipal Code, on the other hand, contains ordinances, policy decisions, and deals more with the day-to-day operations, such as business licenses of the city. And this is amended by council. An example from our own charter and code would be, let's see here. So we'll take it from the charter first. So section 11, salaries. The compensation for the services of each city officer and employee shall be the amount fixed by the council. So that's what it states in the current Tigard City Charter. In contrast, we have the Tigard Municipal Code, which states that the compensation for the services of the city manager shall be an amount fixed by action of the city council by resolution. And here we just want to emphasize more of the specificity of the Tigard Municipal Code. Another example would be in regard to contracts. In the Tigard Charter, we have section 40, bids. Except as provided or allowed by state law, all contracts for public improvements to be made by a private contractor shall be let to the lowest responsible bidder for the contract and shall be performed in accordance with plans and specifications approved by the council. The council shall have the right to reject any or all bids of public contracts. In the Tigard Municipal Code, we have chapter 2.46, Local Contract Review Board. So there's an entire chapter that delves into more detail about the Local Contract Review Board, including its organization, meeting notices, and rules of procedures, which also includes the City of Tigard Local Contract Review Board Public Contracting Rules, which is about 85 pages. So we see how things are laid out in the Tigard Charter versus the Tigard Municipal Code. And we have a lot more detail in the municipal code versus the Tigard Charter, which just provides the guiding principles for the city to abide by.
And I just want to add real quick that this is a very important distinction that I think we're actually going to spend a lot of time talking about as we're going along. What belongs best in the charter versus what would be something that's more appropriate in the code. And Shelby's going to talk a little bit more about that later tonight too. But Zena, I see your hand, please.
So I have a question about this difference. So the municipal code is getting amended more way often than the charter?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. And that's because the city council is the one that makes decisions to change the municipal code, and they do this by ordinances. So when you go to city council meetings, you see a lot of ordinances being passed, and some of those ordinances are placed in the Tigard Municipal Code. whereas the charter, you have to take it to the voters for the charter to be changed in any way.
And Shelby, please.
Yeah, so if I could chime in, I want to reiterate the analogy that Jesse gave about the charter is to the Constitution as the statutes are to the code. So I think it's helpful to think of it as like the US Constitution is the city's charter. And so you think about how difficult it is to amend the US Constitution. It's incredibly difficult, and so it very rarely happens. And so that means that what goes into the charter has to have longevity and durability. It has to be easy to understand. It has to be clear. It's all of those things that we talked about at the beginning with the value statement, because it's not going to be amended every day. The code, you think about how often the legislature makes new statutes, both at the federal and state level. It happens all the time, and it's, politics aside, it's fairly easy to do. And so, so that's how I would encourage you to look at it. Is it something that is of such a value that it needs to be written, think of it as permanently in the city's charter, versus is it a policy statement? Is it a law? Is it a code? And does it have the more detail, the flexibility, the in the weeds kind of implementation that a statute or law would have? So I think it's an important distinction, and like Kim said, we'll definitely keep coming back to that throughout our discussions.
Thank you, Shelby.
And Tony, I see your hand, please.
Hey, sorry, using your analogy with the Constitution and that kind of approach, I guess my question is, so where does the charter have teeth, and how is that implemented? So for instance, if the municipal code is changed in a way that is, for lack of a violation of the charter, what does that have any teeth? Does that have any, what happens? Because you can, if something's not constitutional, it can be struck down. Is that a similar environment here? Because that's my question.
Yeah, absolutely. So if the city passed an ordinance that was in violation of the charter, yes, that could be struck down. That would be it's likely done through what's called a writ of review. It would be in a circuit court in the state of Oregon. And yeah, somebody would say what the city just did is inherently contradictory to what the charter says. And so, yeah, it's absolutely possible. The charter itself, though, does not have teeth. So whereas a statute will say punishable by, X dollars in fines, or, numbers of days in jail or whatever, the charter itself does not have those teeth. It's the implementation of the charter through the code.
And Jason, please.
What's more likely to happen is that the city attorney at a city council meeting or the city recorder or both would advise the council that what they're about to do likely violates the charter, and then hopefully the council doesn't do it. That's reality. Now that, in current political land, I guess in some jurisdictions, maybe that wouldn't be followed, but in Tigard, at least thus far, I don't think we've had councils that are conspicuously trying to violate or doing things to violate the charter.
It's a good distinction. Jesse, please go on.
Thank you all. Okay, so here are some qualities that would make a good charter, and I'll go through each of them. Straightforward. So simple language understood by lawyers and lay people. We need to remember that elected officials, community leaders, and citizens all have different levels of legal knowledge. Consistency. Writing style, verbiage, and content should be consistent and not contain any internal contradictions. Thorough but not exhaustive. The charter should not attempt to address every future scenario. It should provide a solid foundation of how the government should operate and details should be kept to a minimum. Detailed procedures should be set forth in code, and this can be updated way easier. Good charter should be flexible. The charter will change over time as the community changes. So the charter should provide broad powers needed for the local government to work effectively. And lastly, it's focused on the fundamentals. It's key that we address the general principles rather than any of the details, the legislative details. Legislative details can be included in the municipal code in the form of ordinances. And lastly, we have the timeline after the charter review. And basically in June, July of this year, we will bring forth the recommendations to the City Council as well as provide any finishing touches. In August 2023, a resolution approving the ballot title will need to be approved. The earlier the better, just in case there's a challenge. In September 2023, the deadline to submit the material for the November 2023 ballot to Washington County. That's the, I believe, early September would be the deadline. And November 7th, 2023 is election day, and that's when the city voters would decide on the changes. Yes, Nathan.
Thanks. I'm not sure if this is exactly the right time for this question, but I was curious. It seemed to be implied in the guide that we read that typically a charter review would be as much as 12 to 18 months, and this is only a 6-month review. Especially given that it's been 60 years since it's been reviewed, I was just curious what the reasons were behind the seemingly kind of short schedule.
It's a good question. Shelby or Kim, do you want to chime in on this one?
I'll let Shelby answer.
Yeah, so, absolutely, this is just our, this is the guideline that we have set out. If we need more time, it's possible that we can do it. Council's direction was to try to get this on the November 2023 ballot. And so in order to do that, this is really the time frame that we have. The ballot title process does take quite a bit of time, and we have to make sure that our city council is brought along in this. Like we've discussed, this is a recommendation to city council, and then they'll have the ultimate say about what goes on the ballot, and then the voters will have the ultimate say about whether to approve this or not. So if we get into it and it looks like it's just impossible to meet this timeline, then absolutely we can go back to our city council and discuss changing it. If we can work towards this and get it on the November ballot, that's the goal right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions about City Charter 101 for Jesse? Right, so I'm going to turn it over to Shelby, and I forget what we named your section.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
I think so. The last section is the everything else section. So I wanted to, you all received the National Civics League handout. I did want to highlight page 8 to start with. So we're going to be working from this document, referring to it quite a bit. As Kim mentioned, when we went through and looked at all the resources available out there, this was one that we thought was really good in terms of a nonpartisan, no agenda kind of overview about how these processes work. And so we will be looking at it in more detail. It was lengthy. We didn't expect you to read the whole thing, but we'll be pointing to it as we go along. So page 8 really overviews what a charter can and cannot accomplish. And so like we just discussed a little bit with the Constitution versus statutes, there are things that are appropriate for a charter and things that are more appropriate for a city ordinance. And so a city ordinance also has the full effect of law. And so it shouldn't be thought of as anything less necessarily that it's in an ordinance or city policy. And so there are some things that are particularly politically relevant now. So sustainability is one. So absolutely one of the city's goals. Council has directed us to take actions to advance this goal. We have policies, we have plans that we're actively implementing, but I would suggest that's not something appropriate for a city's charter, just because it's not related to the fundamental governance of the city. And so it doesn't diminish the value of that, of sustainability. And there are other ways to accomplish it at the city level, but not by writing it in the charter. And so I thought page 8 did a good job of kind of giving an overview of things to think about when we're thinking about a city charter change versus any other type of city action we can take. So another one that document mentions is pet projects. So it was mentioned earlier, the light rail initiative that was drafted into our charter. So your feelings on it aside, it was an incredibly poorly drafted language. And so what that resulted in is now the city has to figure out, what does an authorization ordinance look like? And so we're having to both interpret a law that we don't know what it means, trying to figure out how to comply with it when we don't know what it means, and then trying to adhere to the spirit of it when we may or may not agree as a city council what that is. And so that was a very complicated process that we had to work through. And it was drafted by somebody entirely outside of the city, with no involvement from city council, city attorney, city staff. And so it was really forced upon us. And so similarly, we don't want to create those types of situations for staff and councils down the road. And so again, if that's something that can go in ordinance, that city council has more authority to touch along the way, to adopt, amend over the years, absolutely, that's the more appropriate way to deal with it. Because once it's in the charter, essentially we're stuck with it until we come up with another group like this, hopefully not 60 years down the road, but another group like this to review it. So I would encourage you, as we have grand ideas about what we want to have happen in Tigard, to think about, is it a charter change or is it a advocacy in front of city council that results in an ordinance, resolution, policy, etc. Jason.
So this is fascinating that you're bringing this up, because it's making me think about whether it would be appropriate for the charter to describe how and what the process might be for future citizen referendums and initiatives. Is that a topic that is like the process of that, and what might need to happen to be able to get it on to the ballot? Is that appropriate for the charter?
So I would have to, so the Oregon Constitution does address some of that. And so in the spirit of home rule, there are certain things that we can get around and things that we cannot. So I would need to double check what the Oregon Constitution says about initiative and referendum powers. But as long as we're in compliance with that, absolutely, that is the power of the city to vote would be something.
So I think that should be on for discussion as a topic.
Yeah, and I've seen it in other charters. I don't know if I've seen it in Oregon's city charter, but I have seen amendment language or how to amend the charter in other city charters. Any other questions for Shelby on the distinctions of, oh, yes, John, please. Oh, you were muted.
There we go again. I just leave myself unmuted most of the time. Related to the topic you were just talking about, and I'm gonna try not to go into my opinion or what I feel should happen. But let's say that the language about light rail did not end up in our new charter discussion or final charter proposal. is it something that we could recommend maybe to the council to put in their rules, or maybe they make an ordinance that maybe copies the same thing? And I know people that put it forward will say, well, the reason we put it in the charter is so everybody has to vote on it. But at least it would still stand that shows that we're in support of that possible meaning. And so there might be things, that is one example. There might be other things that maybe if we move them actually out of the charter, could we maybe make a recommendation of the council move forward with an ordinance?
Yeah, absolutely. And then council can do what they will with that recommendation. But yeah, exactly. At least it's been made. Yep.
And I'm certain this will be a topic that we come back to time and time again. There are certainly gray areas in this area, and we talk about them as if it's pretty black and white, but there are gray zones. So look forward to navigating that with this group. This will be the last meeting where you listen to us talk to you for the entire time, which I think everybody's going to take a deep sigh of relief. Starting at our next meeting, we'll be having substantive discussions about the charter. So starting at our next meeting, we'll be talking about the overall structure for the charter, as well as topics around gender neutrality and technology and some of that language, and some direction to Shelby on how you would like that to be drafted. There'll be more information coming your way. Just as a point of administration, you can usually expect to hear from me on Thursdays. I will try to stick with that schedule so you know to look for things from me in your inbox on Thursdays. This will probably also be the only meeting that we end early. I expect that at 7:29 every other week from now, I will be cutting off the conversation and everyone's going to feel bad about that, including myself. But so enjoy your extra 30 minutes this evening. But I will take any last questions before we break for the evening. Margaret, please.
Yeah, I have last question, and this is good because I go down and watch Jeopardy. But anyway, the one question I had going through the side-by-side comparison, and in the initial one, it said, in part of the thing, it said, this was eliminated by Measure 56 in 1985. Do you guys know what that is? What Measure 56 was? We don't need an answer,
So
but just if you know it, yes. If not, we can just get back to us.
yeah, so it was the city's one and only charter revision. So it was.
Oh, it was a city vote, not a.
It was a local vote. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
local votes they weren't always the numbers and the dashes. So it was even though it's labeled as a statewide, that was before they started labeling them differently. So it was just a city initiative or a city amendment.
Got it. Okay.
And John might have better recollection of it.
I was going to say, Margaret, one of the items they did in that period was change the mayor's term from 2 years to 4 years, and different items along the way like that. So there were like 4 or 5 things they changed along the way. That's the one I remember the most.
Yeah, and they listed about 4 or 5. They said that 4 or 5 times. So okay,
Yeah.
That was a city thing.
Yes.
Answer my questions answered. Thank you.
Great. Any last questions? And I will send out the PowerPoint. And if you have anything else that comes up, do feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much. It's good information that you got us. I appreciate it.
A great setup, team.
Thank you. I'm so excited to actually hear your voices much more going forward. But have a great night. Thank you for joining us on this.
Thank you.
Thanks.